G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Off Ukraine War Update for the 1st of October 2025. Unlike many YouTubers, I'm not hyperbolic. I'm not trying to scare you into going to war against Russia or trying to persuade you of anything. I just want you to see the facts and draw your own conclusions based on facts, not on political narratives. I am so sick of the idiots out there who flock to this garbage where everything has to be Putin's desperate, he's losing, and it's like day after day after day, the same videos. How can you be so naive? No. Lazy. So many out there are so lazy. They are so used to giving the media their brain and saying, you tell me what to believe. You tell me what's going on. And you don't dare look out the window and see whether or not they're telling you the truth. Ever since Walter Cronkite lied to you about the Vietnam War, America has been afraid to look out the window and see the truth. They lied and lied and lied for so long that will we ever get off this media merry-go-round? Yeah, for a while people were talking about new media taking over. How Joe Rogan was a refreshing voice. And sure, for a while it was. There were many people, new podcasts all the time, bringing us the news, raw and unfiltered. But lately, it's been the same hyperbolic garbage attracting the views of the gutless minority. The majority of people out there aren't listening to the news. Well, I know this. Most people are burying their heads in the sand. Most people don't care about the Ukraine war. I'm going to continue to speak the truth, to sort through the garbage and the lies, and to expose it all if I can. And try and point out the mere fact that most of the time what they're doing is just giving you an opinion. Estonia warning of Putin's distraction tactics. That's just an opinion. They have no proof. They bring nothing to the table. And they bring nothing helpful. People have at least asked honest questions. Yeah. Yeah, whether or not you like the perspective, yes, from a certain point of view, Russia is the invader. But wasn't America the invader in Iraq? Wasn't America the invader in Afghanistan, Panama, Nicaragua? And 70 plus wars, coups, since, what was it, 1916? Interventionism. Yeah. Interventions. 72 interventions. You have to stop playing politics and start resounding the truth. Even bad guys do good things. Good people are sometimes have to make terrible decisions. The world isn't black and white. We have no right to choose the leaders of other countries, yet that's exactly what Europe and America was engaged in Ukraine. Obama decided that he was the one who decided the president of Ukraine, not the people of Ukraine. So the people of Donbass rebelled. Normally the left rallies to rebellions and calls them freedom fighters. But because it was against Obama, they condemned, and to this day, the right goes along with the left on Ukraine, which totally goes against the majority of Republicans out there who won't stand up, won't speak up, and tell the party, get the fuck off this merry-go-round. Now, Trump is trying. But we get a one-sided reporting on the war. We get the narratives, the same narratives, time after time. And unfortunately, because people see the same thing over and over again, they sit there and say, well, it must be true. Really? So you think the party is always right? This is what Orwell warned us against over and over again. Orwell warned us against absolutism, the manipulation of language, fascism sold to you as anti-fascism or INSOC. We're not socialists, we're not fascists, we're not capitalists. Time and time again, you have countries every day trying to encourage support for them literally stealing Russian assets from European banks to fund Ukraine. Now, the question came up again today about Tomahawk cruise missiles. Russian Foreign Affairs Minister says they did not believe Washington made a final decision. Well, that all debate is over. There will be no missiles. There will be no new aid package. There will be no long-range missiles. Chuck Schumer decided to pull all this into this whole package into some budgetary amendment or something in the Senate. The government apparently needed 60 votes to pass their own funding bill. The Senate refused, so there's a shutdown because Chuck Schumer wants his way. This is the problem. The founders never considered that democracy can be held hostage by giving power to a minority, by making everything an absolute vote. You give power to a minority who can just sit there, cross their arms, and go, we won't go along with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nah, 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 nah. That's the childish mentality of Chuck Schumer, the Democrats in general, and they only have themselves now to blame, because now they've cut off Ukraine completely. Trump for the win. Again, Russia thinks that there's interference in Moldavia's elections, that the pro-European party won a resounding victory by denying its Russian rivals in key parliamentary votes. Russia is expelling an Austrian diplomat for suspicions of spying, relaying company secrets to an Austrian oil company. In other words, giving away locations of Russian oil assets to Ukrainian saboteurs. But, we're not going to say the quiet part out loud, are we? What is this? The site's obsession. Oh yeah, of course, it's Temu! Ukraine brought to you by... what's it? Temu's affiliate program. Buy stuff from Temu, fund the Ukraine war. So they can buy more drones. So they can murder more people and call it historical restorative justice. Because weak people can't, they can't focus on their own life. They always have to meddle in other people's lives. They always need some grand, Don Quixote style adventure to make themselves look and feel important. That they're saving the world from the Nazis. Well, they're in fact working for the Ukrainian Nazis. So we have a battlefield update. Really not much going on in the Sumy buffer zone, nor the buffer zone north of Kharkiv. However, the buffer zone north of Kupiansk is growing a little bit, while the Russian, they're still fighting over the center of Kupiansk. Now we go to the Lyman area. No real update there. The map hasn't updated. They're still fighting, but the Russians are stalled. Same with Silvesk and Chavez Yar. Now we go to the siege of Konst, and again, no progress. Now we go to the center. Very little progress. The Russians are making their way along this road network here, trying to link up, and but they are stalled in Ruddy, Pok, Novo, and Myriad. However, in other areas, there's been intensified fighting and a little bit of progress. Not much, but now and again there's a growth spurt. This is from the last week. But again, it's mostly open ground, so they're stuck here on two towns, which if they fall, all of this falls. Now, there was talk about capitulation but I haven't seen any, which was weird. But I think it was a fake story planted by the Ukrainians to try and lure the Russians into a trap. But Ukraine has not capitulated, and now I forget the name of the town. Down here, south of, they have not retreated from. No, the fighting is still there as of a few hours ago. The usual bleating about Russian drones and Russian drone attacks, but that's all. It's just bleating. Zelensky, of course, has been told that Tomahawks will not be supplied. There's no chance. They're expensive for a start. Now they can be fired from a guided missile destroyer and certain submarines. The ground-based Typhon system, which is currently in the Philippines, Japan, and Taiwan. Ukraine does not have any training, or pretty much, but of course if Ukraine's Neptune missiles were so fantastic, why do they need America's Tomahawks? People aren't asking the right questions, are they? Why do you need them if your missiles are so great? If Ukraine is in a position for victory, why do you need more weapons? Alright, as I said, I believe there were talks and was expecting results yesterday. Again, I was right. There were talks. We have Foreign Minister Lavrov here in the middle, opposite Marco Rubio, and down in the corner, spokesperson Maria Zakharova. Now, I believe this article comes from a meeting with her earlier today, in which they reiterated the point that they aimed for a peaceful resolution negotiated by Lavrov and Marco Rubio to follow up on points from their meeting in Anchorage, confirmed, finding a peaceful settlement, and for Americans need to understand the root causes of the conflict, which of course most people out there will not address, will not even contemplate that Ukraine was engaged in murdering Russians for the last 10 years and everybody turning a blind eye to it. But that's the reality. And also, the second root cause, Eurofascism, which again Americans do not want to acknowledge, because for the Democrats to acknowledge that the Europeans are turning fascist, it would acknowledge that the Democrat Party is also fascist. But they want to paint themselves as anti-fascist. Just like Stalin was an anti-fascist. Hungary has blasted Poland for its warmongering. Like I said, the election of Tusk was seemingly at first a step in the right direction, but for some reason something got to them and they fell in line with Ursula von der Leyen and have been singing the Euro-fascist song ever since. Victory in Ukraine, we stand with our Ukrainian brothers, all the usual bullshit, Putin bad, Orange Man bad. Tusk has continued supporting Kiev by any means necessary. That this is our war. If we lose this war, it's the consequences. We're getting, and not just for us, but for future generations. And the whole world is in danger. All the hyperbolic rhetoric. Hungary is neither is the European Union, playing dangerous gains to the lives and security of millions. This is bad. Yeah. Unlike most, Hungary's refused to send weapons to Ukraine and instead advocated for peace all along. Again, Orban pointed out warmongers in Brussels. That's the root cause of this problem. Until Europeans get their head out of their ass, until Americans decide, no, we're going to stand with the Democrat Party. If you stand with Ukraine, you stand with the Democrat Party, and that means you stand for fascism and for getting your way through any means necessary. That means violence. Whenever someone says by any means, they mean violence and manipulation and gaslighting by saying, you're the aggressor, but you're the aggressor, but you're the aggressor. They're obtuse. They know that nothing you say can convince them. They know they just have to be obtuse, that nobody will turn around and say, well, he's accusing you of being an aggressor. That must be true. Otherwise, why is he fighting you? And it's like, didn't you just understand? He is fighting you because he's calling you the aggressor, but he's the one fighting you? You're the aggressor. You're the one fighting them. They were on your border, yes, and you said, fuck you, we're going to shell the Russian civilians, daring Russia to come in and protect them. Just so they could say, look, see, they're the aggressor. 1, cause the problem. 2, and provoke a response. 3, film the response. 4. Accuse the responder of being the aggressor. 5. Attack the aggressor claiming to be defending yourself. Remember, Putin warned his generals not to go into Kiev, that it was a trap. But one of his generals disobeyed him. Why? Obviously, it was turned out he was being blackmailed. Same with that. Turned out he was caught stealing. Turned out he was stealing state funds and selling Russian selling tractor engines to the West, which turned out to be actually tank engines, and they were going to Poland and Ukraine. How many of you know and even remember all these weapons sent to Ukraine? You don't send weapons to a peaceful country. We have Japan and Korea and Taiwan under threat, but we had no problems until China's ally, Ukraine, decided to fight with Russia. And then Europe deciding, let's weaken China and buy off Ukrainian politicians without even looking. And boom, you have a coup. And you completely destabilized Europe. Just so you can pat yourself on the back and say, see, I'm Captain Sky Shield of Ukraine. I'm protecting Europe. Now pay me lots of money. And the gullible muppets out there all rush to the cause saying, yay, let's put a Ukrainian flag on our bio and insult everybody as a Nazi who doesn't go along with the Ukrainian fascist agenda of ethnic cleansing Russians and rewriting history. Because Victoria Nuland can't be wrong. She can't be wrong. She's a Democrat. She's a Ukrainian. Colonel Vindman, he can't be wrong. He's a Ukrainian. That's how childish the Ukrainian/Democrat agenda is. Ukrainians have engaged in political assassinations. And of course, this is what they mean by any means. So whenever Democrats talk about, when Chuck Schumer gets up and saying how he has to defeat Trump by any means, Donald Tusk gets up and says, how are you going to defeat Putin by any means? Don't think they have a different mindset. They are the same thing. They are talking about violence. They are talking about assassinations. They're talking about killing people for having different beliefs or different ethnicities than you, because the only agenda that Chuck Schumer cares about is Israel. Well, the general Democrat agenda, which of course is fracturing right now. Now, the Senate was debating, and is now shut down, but they were debating stealing frozen Russian assets and giving them to Ukraine, about $140 billion. Europe is moving ahead with that by saying they're going to pay Ukraine $4 billion a month, plus another $2 billion for UAV production. But I thought you're winning. I thought Ukraine was making all these drones, not Europe. Yeah, about 200 billion held in Europe. Euroclear, yep. Watchers, eventually, you'll set yourself up for failure, just like Greece, just like Spain. You cannot sustain this war. You cannot even sustain your own economies without war. this tax and spend grift of the left is coming apart, and they're trying to prop it up with war. I forget who said it. I'm pretty certain it was Aurelius. You know, when all else fails, the tyrants turn to war. But of course, as so often with Roman quotes, they do have older and deeper meanings than the few words that I can remember off the cuff. But this goes all the way back to Plato and the New Republic, that all these dreams of man, utopia means nowhere. Once you figure that out, once you understand why he deliberately did not finish the New Republic, because that was the point. They can't achieve utopia, because it depends on you all having the same ideas as one man. So how is that democracy? And that's what happens when you have democracy hijacked by violent, vile, degenerate minorities who want to turn everybody into trans. Why? Because they can. They want to... Because I play God. Because it's playing God. Okay? It's hubris. Nothing but sheer fucking hubris. That is the Democrat agenda. Hubris. They have no politics. They have no morals. They're abandoning Israel for Palestine because who's got the bigger money paychecks? Qatar, Iran, Saudi Arabia. They sell out their friends. They betray their allies. They lure you into investing, and then at the drop of a hat they can declare you the enemy and take everything you own. That's fascism. No rules but the ones we make today. Oh, you like 20% tax? Too bad, we're going to make it 30. You like giving your kids inheritance? Too bad, we're going to tax it all. Why? Because they have a child. You notice it's always the people without who say, oh, but it's not fair. Everything's not fair. You notice they're all silent about them and their highway. You notice it's always the rich elites complaining that life isn't fair and how they've got to take off others. California has the most tax breaks of any state. They may have the highest taxes, but they don't pay them. Development is so stalled, and yet companies move there all the time. Why? Because it's the same grift. They go to California, start a new company, get all the breaks, get all the tax breaks, all the land, and all the build-up, and all the venture capital money. And as soon as they finish burning through it, they leave. And start again. They have no intention of creating new technology. They just have the only intention they have is fleecing you. That's why they're so angry with Elon Musk, because he broke the cycle. He left the plantation. He didn't go along with their grift. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.